Hello, week whatever. I have no idea what week we're in now, and it's been, last week was a tough one for me. I have to admit, I kind of really struggled with not being able to get out to the places that I'd normally be out exploring at this time of year. But that was last week. This week I've got some new ideas, I've got some new inspiration, and we're going to totally absorb ourselves in taking photographs in and around the house that, we're not even going to have time to think about anywhere else we might be or what we might be missing elsewhere. So what I want to do this week is to talk about this idea of the decisive moment. Now, the decisive moment is a term coined by one of the early pioneers of street photography called Henri Cartier-Bresson. And for many photographers, he was like the godfather of street photography. And if you're not familiar with his work, he's well worth checking out. And similar photographers to his era and his ilk are people like Walker Evans, Elliot Erwitt, Robert Frank, Dorothea Lange, Diane Arbus, Brassai, Andre Katesh as well. So I'm going to stop there because that's quite a few names for you to look. But there'll be loads of archives online that you can explore their work from. And it's well worth doing. So it's always inspiring to see how other photographers have interpreted photography and honed their craft over the years. So go and do that. Even if you are familiar, go and do it as well, because it's a good exercise to do. So the decisive moment, the idea of the decisive moment is that in any situation with a camera, there is this kind of pivotal, this optimum moment that you either capture with your camera and immortalise in a photograph, or you don't and you miss it. And I think if us photographers were brutally honest, quite often we miss that moment. Maybe more often than not we miss that moment, and maybe sometimes we don't even recognise that moment when it's in front of us, and that can be a real experience as well. And we only tend to share the moments that we feel we've captured well, and so you don't get to see all those missed moments. But those missed moments are the thing that keeps me coming back to photography. What compel me to go out and take photographs. That hone in something, trying to keep it, trying to refine it and capture that perfect moment is one of the reasons I can disappear for hours, if not a whole day, spending just refining one idea to try and capture that perfect moment. So it's the perfect thing for us to throw ourselves into this week and totally absorb ourselves and waste away the hours with a camera trying to capture the perfect moment. So the key to capturing a perfect moment, I think, really is actually understanding your subject and understanding your environment. So it's perfect for a lockdown. So if you're in your home with people that you know the most, in an environment you know the most, so it's giving you more opportunity to capture that decisive moment. So if you're staying in the home, maybe you want to photograph your housemates or your relatives in there. A real decisive moment might be that moment of real expression. So whether it could be a laughter, it could be a moment of reflection, it could be, it could be a sneeze. That could be the decisive moment. Hay fever season. I have a fond memory of one summer photographing my sister, her reactions to wasps as they flew past her drink that she was drinking, and well, they were very real reactions. But not that I recommend to anyone doing that. That's probably not a good idea, but it just popped into my head. So moving from the home and into the garden, there's lots of decisive moments as well in the garden. So if you know your garden, you'll know how the wildlife interacts with your garden just from watching it. So that will give you an opportunity there. There's also cats and dogs, obviously, that interact with your garden as well. There could be many decisive moments there. And even squirrels, actually. So I know squirrels can be a pain of, people who feed birds, and the squirrels that raid the bird feeders can be a nightmare. But actually, that moment as a squirrel leaves one branch of a tree and puts all its faith into landing onto the next branch in front of it could be a classic decisive moment to try and capture with your camera. So there really are many great decisive moments everywhere, and when you go out for a walk as well. So even the light, a special moment in the light can be a way of photographing a decisive moment and capturing that decisive moment. And when you start to think about it, those moments are actually endless. There's so many opportunities, and once you get hooked on one of them, you just keep on trying and keep on trying to perfect that shot and trying to capture that moment and create those situations. So it's going to be a great way of passing hours of the day trying to perfect that moment. So hopefully that's something really good for you to take away. Now, if you can do that with a phone, or you can do that with your DSLR, any camera, it's just about that approach and thinking about it. Now, if you want to take it a little bit further and you want to challenge your technical ability as well, have a think about, so if you're photographing people and trying to get their reactions and their real emotions, what you want to be doing is making sure that we're all focusing on their face and we're not getting distracted by anything in the background. So make sure you use a low F number and you try and maximize that background blur so we're all focused on the emotion in the face that you're photographing. If you're photographing, you know, I guess you could photograph your dog chasing a ball, or if you've got a cat, they tend to jump up for sticks, you could try and do that. If you're doing that, or even the squirrel as well, you want to be using a fast shutter speed to try and freeze that moment and freeze that action. So there's a whole load of options for you to explore with trying to capture the decisive moment. So hopefully you can find that and you find that inspiring, and I'd love to see the photos that you take as a result of it and the effort that you put into it. So please share them, send them to me, share them on Facebook and stuff, whatever, send them to me however you want to send them. I'd love to see them, and have a good week enjoying that, and I look forward to seeing you next week.